I was getting a finish one way or another, but I that's the further you get into ultra running, the more you learn you have to be smart about it.
Running 100 miles seems impossible, and maybe even kind of crazy. And it is, but we believe in big crazy dreams. That's why we ran 100 miles. It was such a life-changing experience for us, we decided to devote this podcast to preparing and inspiring you to run your first ultra race.
Are you ready to feel the highest highs and the lowest lows? Are you ready to do what you once thought was impossible? Are you ready for your trail to 100? Thank you for joining us here on Trail to 100, the podcast made to help you finish your first 100-mile race. My name is Jacob Bateman, and joined along with me is my beautiful and lovely wife, Melody. And today, as our special guest, we have Jason Hanley. Now, Jason is the owner of WildSense. That's right. It's a company made to apply, I guess you could say, like body sprays, body lotion, recovery bath bombs, chafing balm, mosquito spray, CBD lotion. So WildSense is an awesome company where they're trying to create a place where it's kind of an all you can get it one-stop shop place for high quality gear and recovery items that are so needed that oftentimes we don't think of. Jason also is an ultra runner himself, and he's going to come on and share his story about how he accomplished his first 100-mile finish and how it took him 3 tries, but he finally did it. And he shares what were the keys to his training, what he changed between each round that helped him finally get that finish. And he's also training for a 200-mile race, the Bigfoot 200, right now as well, which he'll be running later this year. So with this, guys, we are announcing a giveaway at the end of this episode that includes these awesome goods that he gives: a recovery bath bomb, pain away lotion, mosquito spray, the best I've ever used in my life. So stay tuned so you can learn how you can get entered in that giveaway to get a whole pack of all these goods that are made to help runners. Thank you to Jason and WildSense for putting on the giveaway. Now let's hear about his story. Jason, we are so excited to talk with you today and hear your story about how you got started ultra running, as well as how you now provide products and gear and sources for other ultra runners.
Thanks. It's good to be with you guys today, and congratulations on your 100. I was really stoked to hear about that, as always.
Yeah, it was a rough one, but I guess you just keep.
Wait, what 100 is not a
Yeah,
race run?
a lot of good people helped keep me in the race. I wish I could say I was tough enough to just do it on my own, but a lot of good people kept me going. So
That's
beauty of
part of the
all.
magic of it,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely part of the magic of it. So, Jason, we know quite a bit about your company that you run with WildSense Goods and what you provide there, and we'll get into that here in a bit. But I really don't know much about your actual ultra running background. So, give us a quick overview of like races that you've done, when it started, and what it progressed into for you.
So really running for me, the magic that kind of became important to me started in high school. I wasn't a runner. I didn't think I was very fast. I thought I was an okay athlete at a couple things, but a friend of my dad's, we were at their apartment and she was going out for a run. Her name was Valerie Mafu, and she just came over and she's like, "Hey, you look like you could run. Let's go." And I was bored. I was a bored, teenage kid, like 13, 14 years old. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And we went out on this run, and it wasn't super fast, and it was steady, and it was hot. And we went way down to this water tower, like down a highway and back. And I got back, and I was like, Val, how far do we go? And she's like, that was 3 miles. And it just blew my mind. Like, I had no idea I could run that far because when you're in like grade school and everything, they never go past a mile and they've got you going full out doing it, or it's just punishment. And I immediately fell in love with it. And then I heard about cross country and it was kind of over from there. That became really me for the next number of years up until like college, right? Then between school and work and everything else, life just gets busy, kind of falls to the wayside in your 20s.
Yeah.
Now, Valerie would go on to be, she would chase down Muhammad Ali's daughter to try to fight her for belts as a boxer.
Oh,
That's what she was
Oh,
wow.
training
that's
for.
awesome.
And when women's boxing came to be the sport, she was historically she was an important part of it and was an incredible boxer and a really good friend. But that's pretty cool to me that it kind of changed my life in that way. And then
Wow.
there was about a 10-year hiatus, in your 20s and got into my 30s and looked down one day and I was like, man, I didn't look like this before. I was getting out of shape and I needed to get back to running. Like that's what I knew made me happy, but I had not gotten back to it. I had pretended to be an adult or whatever and I just needed to focus and do these things. And I started trying to run again and kind of found the passion for it just like that, like nothing. Got right back to it. I was really focused on road stuff and I started setting some really lofty goals and things. And the kind of shorter version of that is I just burned myself up chasing really fast times and things and I wasn't enjoying it and I went and ran a trail race after an injury, like just that I wasn't going to take serious and getting back in the woods and back in the trees, and it just kind of lit it all up again and in a whole new way. And I've raced a few road races since then, but that was probably back around like 2014 or so. And the road races that I did were more like because other people are doing them, doing them with friends. But that's
Hmm.
really when I fell back to trails. And it's been a real center part of where I find my happy place ever since. Through work, through stress, through all kinds of bad things that can go on. That's who Jason Hanley is. He's this guy that goes and trail runs and just loves it.
Wow, that's
Um,
awesome. So I'm just curious. I always like to ask this question because that's how Jacob and I feel too. We started on the roads, then we got on the trails, and we've never turned back. I mean, I attempted to turn back for a minute. I started training for the Boston Marathon. Well, I wanted to qualify, and I did that for like a month and a half, and I was like, yeah, this isn't. We're not doing this. but but anyways, how do the trails fill you up versus the road? Does that make sense?
yeah. So some of it's just the things you get to see, and at the same time, like I live in central Houston now. So when you're living in the middle of the city, it's hard to get really in nature. So you kind of have to find that wherever you can. The birds along the bayou are a big part of that now, but it was really about like the fast times and all the pressure I was putting on myself to accomplish things, like to try to qualify for Boston and stuff like that. And when you're in trail running, you're not there's very few trail races you can go to with a goal time. And like if you have a goal time for 100 miler, you go to another 100 miler and it's not that, oh, I'm going to PR this and run faster than I did at the last one. You might be able to go to one that has a course that makes that more capable. I don't want to say easy because it's 100 miles, but you're not going to keep trying to increase that time each race. You really have to look at each race in a different scope because of the weather conditions, of the trail itself, even, I mean, whether it could be temperature, it could be if the trail's muddy versus last year it was dry. There, depending on elevation gain and loss, humidity, I mean, all of that comes into play. So you can't really put that in that time box that you're constantly trying to beat. There's a variation there that I feel like you don't get with the road. Generally speaking, one road race to another, I felt like same thing, different streets, a few different buildings. There wasn't a lot to that, but there's a real magic too in the trails when you have been at it all day and it's hot and you go through this place where the sun's setting and there's an old-timey windmill in the background in central Texas and you feel like you're in the scene out of a cowboy movie that just you never get to experience and you're actually somewhere doing something that all these other people, talk about and watch TV and wish they went and did these crazy things, but you're actually out there doing it. And I think that's kind of where it comes from. Is just the magic in the place a lot of times, getting reconnected with kind of Mother Earth in a way.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that you said you're somewhere doing something. I feel like that's really what it is. Like there's just something about being somewhere doing something.
You're living
Well, you
life.
can
You're
get
You're
that in
just
the
doing
road
life.
living
too,
life.
but it's like
Yeah.
it's really living. It's you're really getting
Yeah.
out and living.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always feel like it's like we're kind of going back to our like primal selves. Like we
Yes.
we just belong in the wilderness, in
Yeah.
nature,
Not
and
not staring at screens.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah,
running
for
down a
real.
road, and by road it wasn't much of a road, but we were running down what was technically a road in this canyon park this weekend, and we had read a couple of the signs. We hadn't been there before, and it used to be like stagecoaches. So we're running, and to think about it, that wasn't 200 years ago. That was the main road, and it was stagecoaches that rolled through this place. And that's
Oh,
kind of the thing that makes you think like, wow, this is really how humans were not too long ago at all, just a couple generations back. So we really
yeah.
created a different place and time and world.
When did you figure out like, whoa, there's like you can do long distances on these trails, like really long distances.
I had heard about it probably before I got back to running. So the first trails I ever ran were the trails for the Rocky Raccoon course. You may have
Okay.
Mhm.
heard of them. You know, they were talked
Yeah.
about in Catcher Corbett's book, Born to Run. They were mentioned by some of the people that were there. And I didn't know this, but I had like those were the trails I started on and didn't even know these things. It kind of happened around me in the same time and everything. But
Oh,
I had
wow.
heard about Rocky Raccoon and a couple of other races that we had here in Texas. And so I knew it was there. And when I got back to the trails, that's when I pretty much said, I'm going to look at that 100-mile thing. I'm going to have to dig that up and see what I can find out about it. And before I knew it, I had signed up for my first 100-mile period. I had not just thought like, I'm tough. I'm going to do this. And had no clue what I was doing and got myself way over my head, but gave it a
So
good
what
whirl.
was yeah, so what happened on that first 100?
Oh, I failed miserably. The first time I was trying to think of the two times I did Rocky, and I believe it was the first time I was actually doing pretty good and made it to the night and then rolled through the aid station at the start finish, and I was about to head back out with my first pacer, or I think I did, and then I just got sick to my stomach and started throwing up.
Oh,
But we were kind of blaming it on food that was there, but in hindsight, like years later, knowing what I know now, I didn't train with food the right way, with solid foods and things. So my belly wasn't adapted to taking that on. And I was so excited. It was cooling down and I got a pacer and all this, and I was ready to just rip heading back out for the next loop. And I think that's when my gut just was like, nope, not doing this. This has to come out. And then the body just took a total 180 on me and it was done. It wasn't the lack of putting in the miles, it was really a lack of knowledge of what I needed to do next that got me there. And the next time I did it, I didn't know I had a hernia.
oh no.
But I thought I had pulled a muscle like I had moved just like a month and a half before that, and I thought I had just pulled a little muscle. And it was not a pulled muscle, as I would find out later, but I probably wasn't 50K in, and my legs just weren't working anymore because of just the pain in kind of my groin area for, go ahead and get the TMI out there, right? But
Yeah.
but yeah, it just started feeling awful, and it
Oh,
was it was over. It was completely over then.
So
But I
were
learned a
both of
life
these at
lesson.
Rocky Raccoon?
They were. And then I just decided maybe I shouldn't do that race. Maybe it wasn't my race.
maybe it's cursed or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought for a while.
So,
So
have you ever gone back to Rocky Raccoon?
I've gone back there and paced a good bit, and I
Okay.
even course marked some this year. Yeah, I have no hesitation to go out there, and now I would probably go out there and do it again. I love helping people at the
Okay.
local stuff a lot because it's really convenient to be there, and I mean, there's not a lot of trails I know as well as I do those too, so it's beneficial to be there
Yeah.
and crew. Yeah.
So you don't have a yucky taste in your mouth for it.
No, no, not at all.
That's
Not at all.
good.
So I
So
did for a while, but I'm over it.
your second DNF, Were you thinking maybe this distance isn't for me at all? Or what was your mindset? Or were you just like, I got to get out there, I got to get a
Oh,
finish?
it was gonna ha I was getting a finish one way or another, but I that's the further you get into ultra running, the more you learn you have to be smart about it. So I stepped back and I
Right.
did some other distances and really honed the craft of it and started learning things more and kind of studying things more, talking to more people that had done it and increased my distances. And then I finally got there after some other races along the way and really figuring it out. And I decided because I got tired of getting nearly hypothermic, one time angry at the fact that I almost got hypothermic again, I decided I would sign up for the Habanero 100, the supposed hottest race in Texas, because that way I didn't have to worry about, getting too cold. I did the 100K there first, and then I actually got my first 100 miler there.
So you've learned that you're really good in the heat then.
Yeah, at that day and time. Now I've gotten to where I'm okay at cooler races and stuff. Texas heat
Okay.
sometimes can be really unrelenting, and a lot of people come from further north and don't realize it because a lot of times it doesn't get to freezing and it's really humid. So it's,
Mm.
you're at like 39 degrees and 100% humidity and everything's soaking wet everywhere. And it tends to really just shut the body down and get really hard to work in. So then when I've gone to the mountains and I'm like, wait, it's freezing. I've got a snow beard, like, or an ice beard. I'm like, it wasn't nearly as bad as what I had gotten used to here.
That makes sense. That's what I've heard from our Texas friends. It sounds terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not very jealous. So I want to ask you about this because I feel like a lot of people they're so excited for the 100-mile distance and they jump right to it. And technically, the books, the experts, they all say to slowly build up, work on your speed, work on your form, do weight training. So you didn't have the first two Rocky Raccoons, and then you decided to go back in distance a little bit, train smart, and then build up to 100 miles. What would your advice be to someone who maybe they don't have a lot of running experience and they just want to jump to 100?
You know, a few years ago I would tell them to just do it. And I mean, you coach, so you probably having a deeper understanding of it, you know that there's a lot of things to learn there in between, but I've seen people just go out and nail it down the first time and they may be a wreck by the end of it. And
Right.
sometimes they're purely gifted and everything goes, really well. I hope you have some hard races along the way to learn what to really appreciate that finish. Getting a 100-mile buckle after a few DNFs like along the way really makes you appreciate it more. I think it's different for every individual and what they need to do, but you need to do it smart. And if you're not doing it smart and you think you're gonna, I'm kind of past the macho self that I maybe once was of like thinking I'm gonna tough something out. I realize now as I'm getting a little older, I need those ankles to work in another 10 years because I'm still gonna enjoy running and still want to do that. There's nothing less tough about taking longer to do it. Like making the smart moves. You could still take a pretty short timeline and get there, but running a 50 miler in the middle of your 100-mile training, so to say, and taking another month or two to get there is a really wise choice that's going to pay dividends at the 100 miler. And it doesn't make you any less tough, and you will know that when you cross the finish line. It didn't change anything, but it will help you along the way. And if you're going to jump straight to it, man, have some people around you that can really guide you well. Either get a good coach or know that you have this wise, like running dad, running mom character in your life that's done it, that is guiding you along the way and won't steer you the wrong way. I think that would be a key to really trying to do it quicker.
I think that's great advice. When people come to me, what I say is I understand that drive to just jump 200 miles. You just want to do it. And so I'm all for helping someone jump to it, but I always tell them it's going to take a lot of willpower to finish. You're probably going to be super broken afterwards. And I always recommend Okay, you did it. You ran 100 miles. Now let's back off a little bit on the mileage. Let's go back to maybe, 50 Ks, 50s. Let's work on your speed and kind of rehab you and then build back up again to a stronger 100.
Yeah. And you better
So
have some crew that loves you and also loves to see you in really bad places. Maybe they don't like you a little bit, but you think they do. Those are the people you need to bring to have at the race.
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, they love you enough to push you. So, yes, what were things that you changed on the third time compared to the first couple go arounds?
Eating eating well while I was training. The kind of where I was at, there wasn't a lot of people I wasn't training with a lot of people that were doing a lot of trails, and the people that did, well, I didn't really train around them a lot to really realize how much more I needed to be just eating. But I started kind of shifting gears to where I would try stuff on a 5 mile run, or maybe even at like near the end of it to just see if I could adapt to it and I wouldn't be sick by the time I was getting home at like, another half mile, or eating stuff before I would go on a run. Even back then, it would be evening runs a lot of times, and make sure that I was able to like keep it down through the run and kind of adapt my body to being familiar with it. That I think eating stuff that I would be eating at aid stations was a big help to me at that time. And then it was really just like learning the training more and getting better mileage and better distance, and actually following through with my training plan and not skipping days and things like that. That really helped. And then I think too, over time, it just became that, my weekly base mileage was bigger. That I could, even if I had sprained my ankle and had to take 2 weeks off, I could come back at bigger mileage and do bigger mileage weekly instead of, just barely being able to get out and get 3 miles in. That wasn't really enough to sustain things in the long run.
Yeah, that makes total
Totally.
sense. Yeah, when you're jumping in fast and quick, little things will set you back a little more than you want. Because you're right, you don't have the base built, and that's what I've noticed here. Like here, I just did my third 100, and through the training cycle, I did feel stronger than I had the previous two training cycles, and I started to realize like, whoa, my base has finally really started to come along to where I can now handle these things a little better,
Yeah.
a little quicker, get back to it faster. So,
Right. And that just takes time. So my next question is, what about strength training? Do you factor in strength training?
Yes, and actually I had that pretty good along the way. I always tried to go to the gym at another point in the day, usually like a lunch break, 30 minutes at the gym or so, and it was just general upper body strength training mixed in with some core, some stability, mobility, kind of all of those as one. And I've definitely gotten better at it as the time has gone on, as I've found deficiencies that kind of it continues to be the left leg, and it continues to be an issue at the lower part of the
Mm,
left leg. But now as I've gone on, I've realized it's probably a weakness in the glute that's related to a really old issue, and so it's transformed from even trying to fix the issue down at the ankle to moving it up into other parts of the body. But a lot of that came too from good help, right? Like that was good physical therapists, a good chiropractic care, that those people were able to help me figure out what was really the root of it. And if you don't figure out where the root of it is, you can try to fix something that keeps happening time and again, but you've got to get to the root cause of it, or it's just going to keep happening, right? So, yeah, I would say
yeah.
it was really good before, but it's only gotten better with time.
That's awesome, especially as you, like you said, you see other people and you figure out what specifically does your body need? What muscles do you need to stretch and what muscles do you need to strengthen so you can fix those root issues. So is strength training something that you do every single day or do you try to hit the gym, a few times a week?
So my goal would be 5 weekdays, like every day at work. Now I
Awesome.
know technically that, the data out there says it needs to be a little less for a runner, but I shoot for 5 days. I'm probably lucky to get four. So if I get an extra day one day of the week, then I'm not really hating myself for one day out of that entire week. That kind of felt like a bonus. But I'm also doing things. I do it a little differently in that some of the upper body stuff is just general upper body, nothing real heavy. And so I feel like if I get in there 5 days a week, the way I'm breaking it up, it's in a manner that works well for me. And that's the important part too, is that it is something I'm going to do and get done, and it's benefiting me, as opposed to some things that just somehow never, if I'm doing it at home, it somehow doesn't happen as much as if I know I'm going to go to the gym 5 minutes up the road and do it.
That's a really good point. I've noticed that too. We bought all this gym equipment so we can do everything at home, but I noticed that when I drive 15 minutes to the gym and do it there, it's so much more productive.
That's the funny thing of it too, is like I probably could have done that before I left, but instead of doing it here, I'll go to the gym and then I'm like, dang it, I can't get on this, I can't get on this exercise ball and do the abs I want to do today. Well, I've got one at the house. And I'll just come back home and do it.
That's
And that
funny.
still works for me, but I guess it's because I've completely blocked that off and made sure I got out the door to do it, as opposed to just trying to walk in the other room and then oh, I forgot to put these dishes away or something, and it just doesn't quite go the same way.
I also like that you brought up that you do what works for you. I think that's a thing with training is a lot of my like coaching career has been trying to figure out, okay, what is the best way to train? And it always boils down to there's no such thing as the best way to train. Everybody's different and you have to figure out what works for you and for your body. So, and they say you 5 times a week is a little too much, but I know so many people. I work with athletes who they train 5, 6 days a week and their bodies are just used to it and it works great for them. So it's just about what works for you.
So you've been an ultra runner for how many years now?
I guess 2016 was kind of when I started attempting that, maybe
So we're looking at
2015.
like what is that, like 7-ish years?
Yeah,
Cool.
about that long.
7-ish years. So what I guess, as we lead this into your company and what you guys do, what made you decide, like, and for our listeners out there, WildSense, you guys have lotion, mosquito spray, chafing, recovery bath bombs, so kind of the selection of the recovery slash, while you're out there, you got to have the anti-chafing cream. What made you decide, like, I want to roll from just being a runner to I want to actually give back and create some products that trail runners can use?
It kind of just came together, I think, in a weird way. I think as a runner, right, you look at things that you need and that you use, and I had looked for a long time at certain products that were out there, and they were really great products, but anytime I would get near a race and I would get in the mode of like, okay, I need to make sure I've got my bug spray, I need to make sure I've got plenty of chafing balm, I've got it, I need to make sure that I've got all these things. I would have to go to like 3 or 4 different places to get them, and nothing was made by the same company. For one, that was one thing that I always noticed was it was kind of a pain in the butt for me to get some of this stuff. And then on the flip side of it, there were some great products out there that when I'd flip over the back of the packaging, it wouldn't even tell me what it was, and I knew it was not, all natural products. And for quite a while within running and everything, I've tried to eat well and treat my body well. So I'm eating natural foods, and then I would pick this stuff up, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is, but I'm gonna put it on because I don't want a giant blister on the side of my toenail and have to run 30 more miles on it. But at the back of my mind, I was like, that doesn't make me feel real easy. So it had been on my mind for quite a while that I felt like some of these products could be done naturally and done really well. And there were some other products that have come along in by different companies, mostly not even related to trail running or running, just stuff that was out there that was okay. But from a business perspective, I was looking around and, you've got a nutrition brand that you may go to. Do you guys have a primary brand that you like to grab, or a little bit of this and that?
Yeah, when it comes to my nutrition, I like Spring Energy. I always get a
Okay.
Spring Energy.
I use a lot of Humas and Scratch. I mean, I'm sorry, we've done some Scratch and then also some Tailwind. So Kathleen likes Scratch a lot of the times, and then I do a lot of Tailwind, but we'll use it. We trust that brand, right? You get to know that brand, and it's pretty easy for me to pick up another one of their products and have peace of mind that I'm going to like it. So I
Yeah.
use that across
Right.
the board. I there's you got a clothing brand that you can count on. I know my shoes. I know when it comes to road, New Balance can't really steer me wrong most of the time if it's the right type of shoe for me. And that's me, and everyone's different. I've got friends that are Brooks and Hoka and everything else in between, but there is something just from a business perspective to know that there is a bit of trust in a brand when you get to know they do things well. And I felt like nobody's really doing that in all of the other products that we need, everything that goes on the outside, all of our body products. And at the same time, I've had a friend that had worked in creating body products for about a decade. And we got to talking, and I kind of expressed to her, like, what the situation was. And we slowly started working on a few of these products just to see if it could kind of be brought together. And there was a lot of beta testing with things that can be a little nerve-wracking. You ever want to go beta testing some chafing balm? It
Yeah,
could be
right.
a little iffy, but honestly, it came out really good because I was able to partner with someone that had a real understanding of how these products needed to be made, and they specifically worked in all natural products. So we spent some time putting all of these things together, and there's still a few more things I have in mind because I really want you to be able to, come to our company and get everything you need so that it's just kind of a one-stop shop, but also that it's the peace of mind and that it's knowing it was made for endurance athletes. I don't want to just say trail runners by any means, triathletes, road runners, trail runners, through hikers, anybody that's out there that's really putting in those big efforts is really what we're kind of aiming at.
That that's
Totally.
awesome. We like to relate ultra running to life, obviously, because I think that's a big reason we do it. It teaches us so much about how to handle stressful situations and how to keep moving when you feel so depleted. But how has ultra running helped you as you've had a startup company?
Man, they feel like, they say art imitates life. It's been like trail running imitates building your brand. Like it has been so similar in a lot of ways. And that some of the things I've learned throughout this is there were a lot of hoops I had to jump through in different places, and it's been really hard. And the reason I kind of looked at it and said, "Oh, I see why other people haven't tried this." It's because it's something that's really hard, and you have to completely be dedicated to all these things. And every time you come up against some adversity, you've got to get through that, and then you're going to get punched in the face with something else. That's another thing you have to deal with to make sure you're doing everything right. And through it all, it has really felt like race training, and you'd get to a point and you're like, man, this is really tough. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I can do this. But then you just have to keep going. And, I've told my wife that several times throughout. And then we launched the company. And I was like, oh, that wasn't the middle of the 100 miler. That was just training. Now we get to get started. Now we start actually doing the work. So,
Yeah, right.
That's
You just
hilarious.
went through a
yeah.
training cycle.
And I think every job is like that. And I think one of the great things about ultra running, and you learn so much about yourself, but then when you go back to work the next week after your race, it transitions back into your life from there in a way that betters you and what you do and how you do it. And it's made a big difference in our ability to launch the company as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love to hear experiences like that. Just almost as you talk about the hoops to jump through, it makes me recollect my last 100, and I just thinking about, just expect there to be obstacles. And once you get past that obstacle, you should probably just expect another obstacle to be lying past that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and have that determination to just, have the mindset to take on the challenge rather than get mad at the challenge. So tell us about a few of your products. And we're actually going to be doing a giveaway with you guys,
Yeah.
which we're announcing here in this episode. So tell us about the products that you guys are going to be giving to one of our listeners and what those products do for our trail runners.
We're going to have some chafing balm. We're going to have some of our no mosquito body spray. We were going to have a bath bomb, which is a recovery bath bomb. I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. And I believe it was the paint away lotion. So we've got other products than that as well, but we decided on those products because they're really kind of central to just about every runner that's out there. The chafing balm was really central to me. That was something I wanted to see, a chafing product that was made with just good all natural stuff that you could use wherever you needed it. I've had a few people test it out for me. Every time somebody said, "Oh, nothing, no chafing stuff works for me," I was like, "Challenge accepted," and I would bring them some. And so far, it's done really well. It's gotten people through some serious distances so far. Then we get over to the no mosquito spray. The no mosquito spray is just plants. That's all it is. But there's plants that occur in nature that bugs don't like. The thing we run into so often is you've gotten brands that start using synthetics like DEET. At the end of the day, we usually find out those aren't good for us. Then another one comes along and they say it's good, and then eventually they say it's not. But we're pretty safe on saying that these plants we know are okay, and they're just simply plants.
Yeah, yeah, we were volunteering at a aid station this past Saturday, and the bugs really started to come out. And they just had some, the race had some normal bug spray there with DEET, of course, and so I just grabbed it real quick, and sprayed myself down. But
Which also, I have to say, I hate bug spray. I love it because I hate bug bites, but I always feel sticky afterwards, and I
yes,
spray it, you spray it everywhere, it's on your clothes, and then you smell like this terrible yucky bug spray all
yeah,
day.
and you just feel nasty after you
Yeah.
spray. But so then, anyways, that bug spray didn't even work for some reason, even on the bugs. So I just got myself feeling nasty and still was getting bit. Then I went and grabbed it, and if you're looking on YouTube, I got it right here with me, the WildSense No Mosquito bug spray, and sprayed that sucker down. And first off, it smells amazing.
It's refreshing. Not only is it not
Yeah,
sticky and gross, but it's actually
like you want to
refreshing.
take a bath in it or something. And it feels good. And the bugs, boom, they left me alone.
Well, and then we started giving it to everyone. They were like, "Oh,
Yeah,
these bugs," and we're like,
here's this.
try this. Here's
Try
the
this.
solution." And they put it on, and they're like, "Finally, it's working."
Then comes kind of the other side of our products, which tend to lean toward recovery. Epsom salt baths. A lot of people, like guys trying to be macho, like I've been guilty of it myself at times, like I'm not jumping in a bath. I don't need to do all that. And I would let
Yeah.
myself get really beat up before I would. In even my much younger days of running, I would end up getting injuries because I wasn't, doing some of these things, right? But with the bath bomb that we have, it's actually designed to kind of take the place of having to soak in an Epsom salt bath. You drop it in, you sit in it, sit in the bathtub for 15 minutes, but when you get out, you're actually more mobile. It's the things that are in it have actually helped your body and improved your mobility, improved some of the body's like blood flow and everything, so that when you get out and you start walking around, I like to think of it after a Saturday long run. I can go to the farmer's market and walk, and I'm not like crunching around, like having a hard time just turning and stepping somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly. And let's be honest, whether you're a macho manly man or not, who doesn't love a nice warm bath?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is so true because there's the statement of you cannot overtrain, but you can under recover.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you're not getting the correct recovery in with for your muscles and your body, then yeah, it's you're not going to be able to
It's
maintain.
crucial.
We also have the pain away lotion that
Yes.
that was the other one that we're going to have in the package for you as well, and that helps with some of the blood flow, helps with inflammation. And that can be important. Sometimes maybe you've got a little troubled area going on this week. It's just something you're trying to get through, and it can kind of aid in helping maybe get some of that inflammation down, getting blood flow to the area.
I do want to talk about my experience really quick with the pain away lotion. I'm pregnant and everything hurts. Right? So this has actually been a lifesaver for me. I've been putting it everywhere on my back. I haven't really been able to run, so I've been hiking a lot. So I'm
Hmm.
speed hiking, and I'm getting like shin splinty pains like I usually don't get because now I'm landing on my heels instead of
Hmm.
my toes. So I've used it on my feet. I've used it on my shins. It's fantastic. So whether
Excellent.
you're a runner or pregnant or whatever, I've loved this stuff.
Yes. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and putting this giveaway together for our listeners and telling us about these great products that can help them achieve their first 100-mile race. Because I think honestly, like, these are the things you don't think of, right? A lot of first timers don't think of having a chafing balm that can fit in their pack and not take up a lot of room,
Yeah.
and that's actually going to work, right? You
Absolutely.
don't think about how bad those bugs are going to be when you're running around that lake at
Yeah.
mile 40. I mean, these are things I didn't think of at all when I first started getting into ultra running, and I wish I had someone there to tell me, right?
Yeah.
Hey, go to this place, get these items. So thank you a ton for just putting out a great product and putting this giveaway together. Again, for our listeners, what you need to do is go to our Instagrams, so at Trail to 100 or at WildSense_Goods. We will have the post up announcing the giveaway. So we're going to run this from July 11th to July 18th. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And Jason, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast today.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. And, thank y'all for doing what you guys do with the podcast. That I think it's just such a great thing for people to have a place where they can go and learn things as they begin this journey. As you can probably tell, I'm in the boat with you guys. I didn't always get that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Just school of hard knocks, right? Where you're banging your head against a brick wall, sometimes repeatedly. All right. Well, thanks, Jason. We will talk to you all next time.
Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Melody here. Thank you so much for listening to Trail. It means so much to us. I'm really excited to tell you about my coaching business, where I help average Joes who are looking for a little bit more out of life do something big to find a little bit more purpose, direction, and meaning. Learn more on my Instagram at The Pine Tree Runner or on my website, melodybateman.biz. Links are in the show notes.